Okay. All right. Hey, everybody. Good evening to you all. Thank you guys so much for being on our call this month. I was debating whether or not to do a call because I have been sick with the flu all last week. And my voice is still not like 1,000%. So we're going to see how I do chatting with you guys tonight. But first and foremost, thank you all so much for taking time out of your busy day to be here to talk about one of my favorite topics in the world, which is unschooling. I would love to know when and how did you first hear about unschooling? So if you could just take a moment, we've got a small group on here tonight, so I would love to get to know you. And if you could just unmute yourself and share, your name, a little bit about your family, and then how you first heard about unschooling. Is there someone who'd like to share first?
I'll start.
Awesome. Thank you, Nikki.
No problem. Well, of course, we started about 4 years ago, and I was lucky enough to meet someone at my husband's job who was unschooling her children.
Oh.
And, I was curious about it. And my husband, all through the county, has always been a basketball coach, for youth sports. So we
Mhm.
had the opportunity to meet a lot of different people. And a couple of the moms was actually homeschooling their kids. And I was like really, really curious because I come from a background of being a substitute teacher.
Oh,
And
wow.
so I was like really, really intrigued. How do you do this? Why are you doing this? I had so many questions. And
Yeah.
one of the moms actually invited us over to her home, and she showed me her classroom, and she told me all the different trips and the things they do. And I'm like, wow. So I was like, okay, I talked to my husband about it, and he was like, that's great for them and all. But when we were blessed enough to have a daughter later on in life, he reconsidered his position on homeschooling. He was like, after we got a taste of high school, he was like, I don't think I want my daughter to experience that. And so we
Mhm.
decided to revisit some of the parents that was actually homeschooling. And from that point on, we've been sticking with it. And it's been a good ride so far. My
Awesome.
daughter's really enjoying it.
Very cool. So how long have you guys been homeschooling officially then?
4 years.
4 years. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. And are you also here in Maryland?
Yes.
Great.
Yes. Yes.
Awesome. And then would you say that you guys do more of like the homeschooling, or are you more like unschoolers, or still kind of in somewhere in the middle?
I would say we're a mix because I do use Mia Academy,
Okay.
but I also, incorporate a lot of hands-on activities, taking her different places,
Hmm.
introducing her to different tradesmen in the area, and approaching her ninth grade year. We're really looking at maybe joining some boot camps for different information technology programs. So we're a little bit all over the place right now with her passion because she
Okay.
wants to do information technology and culinary and be a vet. So we're all over the place. So I'm hoping her ninth grade year is something it's going to be more exploring different trades to see what she's
Wonderful.
really focused on.
Okay. That's wonderful. It sounds like she's got a lot of very diverse interests that she's pursuing.
Yes.
Very cool. All right. Lauren, do you want to go next? Lauren is one of our coordinators here in Maryland. And actually, Lauren, I don't know if I know how you first heard about unschooling. Are you available?
Well, I'm here. Actually, it was you.
Oh, it was me. Okay.
Yes. Yes, I heard about it from you. When you said that someone told you to research unschooling, I thought that I needed to research unschooling. So I did. So it was because of you.
Very
But
cool. And you want to share a
yeah,
little bit about your family, how long you guys have been unschooling?
sure. So we've been unschooling about a year and a half. I have a 6 year old and a 5 year old, first grade and pre K 4. And I plan the field trips in Anne Arundel County. If anybody is in Maryland, in Anne Arundel County, I'm the coordinator.
Yep. Lauren's the lady to know. Awesome. Thank
I
you for
say,
sharing, Lauren.
yeah.
All right. Sabrina, are you there? Sabrina, I'm not sure if you heard when I was kind of doing the introduction, we were just asking for people to share a little bit about your family and then how you first heard about unschooling.
Yeah, hi, I'm here.
Hey, Sabrina.
Um, So we're brand new to homeschooling. We just started a few weeks ago.
Awesome.
Um,
Congratulations.
Thanks. I first heard about unschooling. I had done like loads of research. Like we were researching probably for 2 years before we decided to pull the trigger. I don't really remember specifically what drew me to it. But I was on one of your Q&As a few months ago, and I think that was when I was like, okay, I think we could do this.
Very cool. And yes, you totally can do this. Well, I'm excited for you guys, being here at the start of your journey and I love that you took some time, a lot of time to really research and dive deep into it and understanding before kind of diving in and getting started. All right, and thank you for sharing, Sabrina. Rosa, are you there? I don't know if Rosa, are you able to share?
Hello, my name is Rosa, and I am new to homeschooling. This is my first year, and I went ahead and joined the PAX Academy. My son is an eighth grader and going on to ninth grade next year. So we are still learning what we're going to do. So we are definitely more unschooling. He does go to like I don't know, it's a co-op, but really not because it's project based. So he gets to pick
Mhm.
his projects and it's very much around him, so I like it. It's whatever, he wants to work on. And
Yeah.
right now he's focused on roller coasters and creating, he wants to create a backyard roller coaster. That's
Ooh.
his long-term project. His short-term project has been he's trying to build a game board. So right now I think he's going to mix Monopoly and Clue.
Very cool. Well, you have to let me know when he's ready to have people test that one out. My
Yeah.
kids and I would love to.
So I'm just here to learn more, but I have enjoyed this first year so far, or
Oh, good.
almost full year. It's been great.
Well,
Thank you.
I'm glad to hear that, Rosa. Thank you for sharing. And then Nisi, or and please correct me if I'm pronouncing your name wrong. Nisi, are you able to take a second and introduce your family and let us know how you first heard about unschooling? I don't know if you're able to talk right now.
Oh,
If
I'm
not,
here. I'm sorry.
oh,
I was trying
okay.
to I'm so sorry. I was trying to find you guys. I had dropped the screen for a second.
Oh, no
Um,
worries.
yes, so this is our first year doing homeschooling as well. And I came, I think you do it like once a month, the Q&A, correct?
Yeah.
Yes. I joined it last month because I was just trying to make sure that we were on the right track, make sure that, like we're, you know, I wouldn't say following protocols because there's not really a protocol, and that's what I'm trying to learn. Because I was actually teaching first grade the year before, so it was like I'm
Wow.
kind of like you trying to get out of my head of the whole, having a whole, curriculum. At this time we got to do math. At this time we got to do English. So
Yeah.
just coming on, just getting reassured by everybody who's been chiming in. So yeah, that's just kind of where we are.
Awesome.
I also wanted to get on the call because um, one of your people that chimed in last month was saying that like it's sometimes it gets a little rough because I'm a single parent, so it's like I'm kind of trying to work and trying to make sure that I have things for my son to do and things of that nature. So just kind of jumped on to see like what are co-ops where if there were other parents that were struggling, or if there's other parents that can like maybe teach it on a Monday if I'm not able to cover or something like that. So that was another reason for me to jump on tonight.
Awesome. Well, thank you for hopping on the call. I can speak a little bit to that. When it comes to co-ops, I think one of the best ways to find co-ops is actually looking in the Facebook groups. Yeah, Facebook groups are a fantastic way to just kind of see what's happening. And actually, I think I'll have to look up the website for you, but I know that there's a homeschool mom that I met actually in Frederick, and she had created a website where basically they would be able to like kind of have a directory almost of like the different co-ops that are in Maryland. And so I can't remember the name of the website off the top of my head, but I will look it up and I'll make sure to send that to you guys whenever I send out the recording of this call. Because that resource is definitely really helpful to be able to have an idea of like what are other things that you guys can participate in. But you're absolutely right. It is definitely, it can definitely be a challenge to get out of that schoolish mentality, especially when we're used to being teachers and we're used to having things be in a particular way. And it can be hard to break free from that mindset that learning has to look like the way that we do it in school, you know?
Yes, correct. Thank you for that.
Yeah,
And
you're very
yes, I'll
welcome.
look for the link when you send that as well. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. All right. We saw a bunch of other people that kind of hopped in now. Is there anyone else? I know there are a bunch of people that joined in. Actually, they're still coming in. Would anyone else like to share about you and yourself and maybe how you first heard about unschooling?
I can go.
Hi, Darian.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well. I I'm a I'm a teacher. I'm still teaching. My kids wanted to go back to school for a little. My oldest has been to school. She's always went to school where I taught. And my other two were homeschooled. They've never been to school. So their first year of going to school was this year.
Okay.
Because they were really curious, and my oldest daughter was curious too of like, oh, what's going on in schools. But after going back to teaching, I homeschooled my kids for 3 years while I lived in North Carolina. And we were kind of going like the Montessori kind of unschooling
Mhm.
route. Because in North Carolina, unschooling is pretty popular in North Carolina. And I was like, what is that? Like, I'm a teacher. How do you unschool your children? Like, I thought it was expectations and, you know, all of that, all of that stuff. But they taught me a lot about kind of unschooling and just going with the flow and how it may look like my 10-year-old is just now reading fluently or like so I learned a lot about unschooling and then somebody recommended your school, the Peaceful World school. And then I
Yeah.
heard about PAX Academy through the group chat. So we're going back to when the registration opens, they will be going back to PAX Academy. They'll be going PAX Academy. So I'm excited.
Very cool. Well,
And
we're
I
glad
will
to
be
have you on the
teaching.
call.
So I'll be homeschooling. Well, I'll be unschooling my children. I'll be home with my kids.
I love that. Well, welcome back to homeschooling and unschooling in particular. And I'm really glad to have you on the call tonight.
Perfect. Nice to
All
meet
right.
everybody. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Anyone else that would like to share about how you first heard about unschooling?
Oh, can you see me? Can you see me now?
We can see you now, and it's so
Okay.
nice to see a person. I'm
Hi.
used to staring at the blank screens, and sometimes I feel like I'm talking to myself. So it's always nice to see a face.
So, my name is Haiti. Let me see. I come across this thing because I'm looking for somebody to show me, or I got to learn. I just started homeschooling. It's been now 2 months now.
Awesome.
So my son he's 13 years old, but he's in seventh grade. But he has IEP. He had IEP and when he was in school, but he has a chronic learning disability. So he's like reading second grade.
Okay.
And it's been a struggle because I didn't know, like when he brings me paper from school, he was doing everything seventh grade.
Hmm.
But then when I have him homeschool, because I know the reading part is really bad. So I'm like, no, I need to keep him home and try to figure this thing out with him. But it turns out to be not only with reading, with math and other stuff too. So, but to figure where he was at, I just finally got him tested. And I'm like, oh, wow. So it was overwhelming for the first month.
Hmm.
So I'm still trying to figure out with the whole state situation. Because I'm in state Maryland.
Okay.
So I could homeschool him through the district. But think I was just reading a program. It's called it's a SEP for children who has chronic disability.
I'm not sure. Are you talking about a like a public school program or?
I think so, but
Okay.
I'm still trying to figure out the whole thing because I know the other lady was just talking about unschooling.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure. I have to check the whole. I think every state's different, right? Oh, I think it's
Yeah. So, legally speaking, unschooling is a type of homeschooling. And it's cool that you're here in Maryland. I think most of the people that are on the call today are also from Maryland, including me. So
Oh,
Maryland,
that's great.
yeah, yeah. I was born and raised here in Maryland. I've lived here my whole life. I taught in PG County and in Montgomery County, taught for
Oh,
over a
okay.
decade. And I taught Spanish ESOL, so English for speakers of other languages, and then also special education. And yeah, so I've kind of seen the whole gamut of school from kindergarten through 12th grade. And one of the reasons why I like to do these calls is because when I first started homeschooling 7 years ago. Gosh, it's hard to believe it's been that long. But when we first started homeschooling 7 years ago, I started homeschooling with the only thing that I knew, which was school at home. And I think that's how a lot of us start approaching high school or homeschool rather, that,
Hmm.
we look for a curriculum and we look for workbooks and worksheets and co-ops and classes and, all these other kinds of like homeschool resources. And the truth is that homeschool is less about doing school at home and more about doing life with the people that you love the most. And so my family and I, we do a type of homeschooling, which is called unschooling. So that is legal in all 50 states. Are
Okay.
you currently doing homeschooling under the county or are you under an umbrella?
So they told me I have to pick what's it called? I gotta be under something. So right now, the only thing I picked was AXL, but then when I try to get information through the special ed lady, to see where he was at and see what I have to do, and I reach out to the district.
Mm-hmm.
All they told me was you have to pick, and they gave me a list, and I had to look it up. This other online. So I had to pick something, or I gotta go on a church or something. So I'm like, I don't even know where to start. I don't even know where books. So I bought a whole bunch of books, and I'm like teaching him, and he's like, "Mom, I don't understand. Mom, I don't get it." So now I'm like, okay, what am I supposed to do? So now we went from seventh grade to second grade reading, and he's doing better on second grade. But then when I do, like, I could show you. I mean, I don't even know what am I supposed to do. So like these things I grabbed.
Uh-huh. Yep, I'm
So
familiar with this.
and then this other one, math.
Uh-huh.
But then I have the ISL program, and then it's supposed to check to see, like, it diagnose him, like, what to check to see where he's at, but he can't do it
Yeah.
on his own.
Yeah.
So he's relied on calculators. He relied on stuff that reads it to him because he can't do it on his own because he has a chronic learning disability. So
Mm-hmm.
I can't get him tested on that because he can't do it on his own.
Okay. Okay, well, as someone, it sounds like we got a lot of people who are kind of new to homeschooling or you've started within the last year. And if there's one piece of advice that I could give to the new homeschoolers that are hopping on here, it is that, over the years, I've worked with literally thousands of homeschooling families, thousands of homeschooling families. And the biggest mistake that I see new homeschooling families do is that they skip the deschooling period. Are you familiar with the term deschooling?
No.
No. Okay, no worries. Well, I'm glad you're here because we can talk about it. So the deschooling period, whether you ultimately end up choosing unschooling or some other educational philosophy is totally fine. But it's really, really important that when you first make this transition, you're pulling your child out of school and you're starting this new life as a homeschool family, the first phase that you want to go through is a phase that's called deschooling. And during the deschooling phase, it's very similar to like it's like deconstruction, like I don't know if you've seen people talk about like deconstructing, religion or something like that, but it really is like that. It's like a process where you're really deconstructing school and all of these ideas and mindsets that have been so like drilled in our brains about what learning is and what learning is supposed to look like and the order and grade levels and grades and all the things that have to do with school. And so during the deschooling process, most people will tell you that you need to deschool 1 month for every year that your child has been in school. 1 month for every year that your child has been in school. And I think they say this kind of as like a guideline because now that I'm, 7 years into this journey, I don't think we're ever done deschooling. I think that deschooling is just something I will be continuing to do for the rest of my life because as my kids get older, encounter new fears and new worries and new concerns that I have to deal with and process
Mm-hmm.
and let go. But I think that 1 month for every year is a really good guideline. So in the case of your son, how many years has he been in school?
13 years. So he's been going to school his whole entire life until I put him up 2 months ago.
Okay. So that means he's got 13 years of that system in his
Mm-hmm.
in his brain, right? So
Mm-hmm.
he's going to need 13 months of deschooling before you even touch anything that looks or feels like school.
Okay. So I'm not
Right?
crazy because I'm like,
You're
to the
not
point
crazy.
I literally took, to tell you the truth, I took 3 weeks a break because I'm like, I need to figure this thing out because
Yeah.
even though we're doing index cards, he can't get it and he gets overwhelmed. So I'm like, you know what? Let me just figure this thing out because I don't know what I'm doing. I need to figure out some help.
Yeah. Yeah. And so during the deschooling process, you're going to pretend like school doesn't exist.
Okay.
And I really mean that. I know that it's a
I'm
really
writing
hard
notes.
thing to like wrap your mind around. But during the deschooling process, you want to imagine for a moment that school does not exist
Okay.
and everything that goes with it. So imagine like, and actually I did this. I like closed my eyes and I was like, okay, I'm going to imagine that there's no such thing as school. School never existed. There's no such thing as grades, as grade levels, as subjects, as grade levels or report cards. There's no such thing as tests or quizzes or curriculum or any of that stuff. Just imagine that all those things are gone.
Okay. So I don't
Okay.
have to worry about testing. I don't have to worry about.
Nope. And so during the deschooling process, you're going to imagine, pretend like those things don't exist. And then during that season, you're instead going to kind of take off the teacher hat, right? Instead
Mhm.
of viewing yourself as the teacher of your child, you're going to start to view yourself as the best student of your child that you possibly can. You're going to start to get to know your child, spend time with them, like observe the heck out of your kids, right? Give them lots of free time where you can see what is my child naturally gravitating towards? What are the kinds of things that they're naturally wanting to do? What are the problems that they're trying to solve? What are the questions that they're asking? What are the skills and the resources that they go to when they want to answer a question? And just start really getting to know the unique human being that God has given you to raise, right? So
Okay.
you've got this unique human being that you have the privilege and honor of raising them, and we have the privilege of kind of walking alongside them as they're creating their own unique life path. And yeah, so during that deschooling process, we live like school doesn't exist, and instead we focus on looking for the learning that our children are naturally doing all day, every day, as they do the things that they love.
Okay.
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 Now, when it comes to the practical side of things, I know that you're in Maryland. We got a lot of other Marylanders on the call. So, homeschooling in Maryland, you basically have two choices. You can either homeschool under the supervision of the state or the county. And if you choose to do that, that's called option A or the portfolio option. So, if
Yeah.
you pick that option, you have to keep a portfolio and you have to present a portfolio to someone from the county, and then they're going to decide if you've done enough for them and if you, most of the time, it's fine. I mean, most of the time, you do your portfolio review and they check you off and you're good to go and it's done. But in the random chance that you get someone who woke up on the wrong side of the bed or who doesn't understand deschooling or homeschooling or unschooling, or I don't know, you find someone who just is on a power trip. I've heard some stories. Okay, so you might run into someone who maybe is not the best, and in that case, it can really present some problems for families. And actually, that's how a lot of families end up finding their way to me, is because they've had a review with someone from the county and it did not go very well. And so I get to hear all the horror stories, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I would not wish any of that on my worst enemy. I see someone just commented, I think it was Samantha just commented on the chat. She said, I found the county review to be belittling, and that's what's leading us to join Peaceful World Schoolers. Samantha, you're not the only person who has told me that. Yeah, so, it's kind of like Russian roulette. Like you don't know who you're going to get for your portfolio review. And so, because of a really terrible portfolio review, that was kind of the way I got introduced to the homeschooling community here in Maryland 15 years ago. I was working with a homeschooling family that did not pass their annual review. And not only was the county threatening to remove the parents' right to homeschool and force them to send their daughter back into a public middle school where this poor girl had been terribly bullied, they were also threatening to charge the parents with educational neglect and remove the daughter from the home entirely. And the parents didn't speak English, and it was a whole big thing. And I was like, holy cow. It was very traumatic for the parents. It was traumatic for the daughter. It was traumatic for me. And I was like, I'm not even in the situation here. I'm here to help. But yeah, so anyway, so I typically do not recommend that people choose the portfolio option just because it is that. I don't know about you. I struggled with anxiety and I was like, that is just unnecessary anxiety that I don't need in my life personally.
Yeah, because I know when I decide to put them out, they told me what to do, and then they say, well, we could put option A, and I say, what is that? You could still homeschool, but then you just got to do the portfolio. So that's where I was like, oh, okay, but I didn't know too much.
Yeah.
But
Yep. So that is option A. And then the other option is option B, which used to be known as the umbrella option. But basically, the other option is that you can enroll in an organization that's most of us, we call them umbrellas. And an umbrella does just that. It kind of provides that buffer between you and the state. And so that's the organization that I started. I started an umbrella called Peaceful Worldschoolers. There's hundreds of different umbrellas in the state of Maryland that you can choose from. All of them are under the supervision of a church. And that's how we have that separation of church and state, that you're either under the state supervision or you're under an umbrella, which is under a church. And so that's how Maryland kind of does homeschooling here. And so when you enroll in our umbrella in particular, we are what's known as an unschool friendly umbrella. So we do not require you to keep or maintain a portfolio. We only require the bare minimum that the state requires, and that's that we do an annual review at the end of the school year. And that is it. So ours is meant to be easy peasy. We call ourselves Peaceful World Schoolers for a reason, because I want this experience to be as peaceful for you as possible. And so that is our umbrella. But like I said, there's hundreds of umbrellas out there that you can choose from. We'd love to have you join ours. And yeah, so if you have any questions about that, feel free to let me know. I see Stephanie also commented. She said, I was terrified to deal with my county. Queen Anne's is the worst. Yes, Queen Anne's, I've got some stories from Queen Anne's. Signing up with Peaceful World Schoolers changed everything for us. I tell everyone I can't thanks really do. Oh, thank you so much, Stephanie, for saying that. That made my night. Okay, great. Yeah, so does that kind of give you a better understanding, Haiti, then of kind of like the difference between the two?
yes, I understand more now. Yes,
Okay.
because, yeah.
All right, good. Yeah, so and I can drop the link for our website into the chat for you. It's kind of
Yes.
good that you're hopping on the call right now because we're actually doing we do our annual review via Zoom, so it's actually very similar to this. We do our annual review during the first week in April, and so if you are currently under the state supervision and you do not want to be, oh, hold on one second. Sorry, my thing unplugged. If you're currently under like the portfolio option and you don't want to deal with the portfolio review at the end of the year, you can switch and you can enroll with us. That way you won't have to deal with the portfolio review. You can change
I don't have
anytime.
to do that. I could change anytime because I know
Yep.
I just signed up and mine don't start to April 15th of this month. And I'm telling my son, like, I don't even know what we're doing because I'm just going by these books and they're not really testing because I'm just doing the work because you can't do it. I'm
Yeah.
like, I don't know what to say because I'm like, what? She's like, you need to have all the test stuff. Okay. But if he doesn't get it, how can I test my son at home?
Yeah.
I'm just
No,
going
you
through it.
don't have to test them. You don't have to test them. So that would be my recommendation. I would recommend that you switch over to us. That way you can breathe a little bit and you won't have to worry about dealing with the portfolio review or any of that other stuff.
Oh, okay. All right.
All right.
So I just go on the website and just sign up and that's it?
Yep, you just click on the website. It's peacefulworldschoolers.com, and you just click where it says register. It's $100 per family per year, and that's it.
Oh, okay. And then And I let the school, and then I will send the email to the school that this is what I'm doing. So then I don't have to do the portfolio no more.
That's it. Yep.
Okay. See, I'm writing them down.
Okay, good. All right.
Okay, I got everything done now.
Good, good. I'm glad. All right. And I see Bertha has her hand up. Bertha, thank you for being so patient.
No worries. Thank you for doing this. This is my second time on, and yes, I know. I actually did homeschool my son for almost 3 years, and then he did start in the public school system, and I'm venturing to pull him out. He's had a tough year, and he does have learning differences, which is why I was trying to stick it through there to get him the supports he needed. But ultimately, it's too difficult for him. But
Yeah.
Angela, when I am fully on board, my husband is not entirely in agreement with the whole concept of learning entirely and everything. I mean, we spend both of us a lot of time with our kids, but my
Mhm.
question to you is ultimately, how do you manage? I believe you have a little bit, you have like a little bit older. I have a second grader and a fifth grader. And he'll be going into sixth grade, which is a
Yeah.
whole other monster. But how do you kind of how do you, I guess, balance the actual academic side of where at some point you would like, I guess, if you're thinking of like continuing education or something that along the lines of we do a lot of learning out, which I would like to think out, I take them out of school a lot and kind
Yeah.
of just don't put so much heaviness to the actual grades. But I
Mhm.
do recognize that, math and certain subjects will be helpful to grasp actual concepts of it. So
Yeah.
with this philosophy that you have started, like how do you balance for those families that still want some of the academics, but are not necessarily going to teach their kids those academics because like the last mom, it's very difficult because my son does need that extra layer of support in learning. Um, so how would you balance that? How do you balance the academic? I guess there's no testing, there's not, but how do you manage the balancing of actual learning? What I guess they I don't want to say need to, but in some aspects will benefit from knowing.
Yeah. So that is kind of the age-old question, right? Like, how do you know what they need to know, right?
Yes.
Our children are very similar in age. My oldest daughter, she's actually going to be 12 on Tuesday.
Oh,
And
wow. Okay. So it is.
yeah, so she's in would be in sixth grade if we cared about grades. And my son is in second grade. He's 7. And yeah, and so for us, there isn't a separation of this is educational and this is not.
Okay.
This is academic and this is not. Like all of life is learning, all learning is valuable, all of it counts, all of it has value for them. And the interesting thing is that all of life is learning, which is true, but what people learn ultimately, they only learn things that are actually of value to them as individuals, right? Like you could be the best teacher in the world. And I saw this as a teacher in the public school classroom. I could be the best Spanish teacher in the world. But if you are not interested in learning Spanish, like no amount of graphs and charts and PowerPoint presentations and homework, like no amount of anything I do can make you learn something that you don't want to learn. And that's the same thing that we see with our kids. So I recognize that we kind of have two choices here. The schooling way of dealing with teaching kids things is that kids are going to learn by me choosing what I think you need to learn, and then I'm going to force you to learn it.
Hmm.
That's the schoolish way, right? With an unschooling philosophy, it's the exact opposite. Instead of me forcing you to do certain things, you are completely free to decide what is actually valuable and meaningful for me as an individual.
And I guess my continuation of that question is down the line, if they're going to be going into the school system,
Yeah.
uh, if it's sometime in high school, that is like it has to be a commitment to continue this philosophy till they graduate, it would seem, because it would make it difficult to plant them into like the school system later on in, middle school or high school,
Yeah.
where they then would be, exposed, or even a private school, even in, a great private school, like that they would have some challenges, right? Like, or do you think?
It really depends. I would encourage you. One of the first things that I did when I first started learning about unschooling, sorry,
Bless you.
recovering from being sick for a week.
Oh no.
I watched a podcast called the Exploring Unschooling podcast. I would highly recommend that you go and binge all of her episodes.
Okay.
The lady who hosts the Exploring Unschooling podcast, her name is Pamela Rickia, and she has been unschooling longer than I have been alive. And every week she interviews a new unschooling family. And sometimes she interviews grown unschoolers, so people who grew up as unschoolers and they're kind of reflecting on their life, on what worked, what didn't work, what challenges they encountered, what they thought about being raised with this philosophy, how it went for them. And it was so fascinating for me because every person's story is different, right? And of course, as you know, as we're unschooling with little kids, it's easy to see how, like, oh, sure, yeah, they can learn numbers and colors and counting very easily as an unschooler. But thinking long term, like you're saying, okay, how are they going to do? Yeah, that works for counting, but how is that going to work for geometry? Right? How's that going to work for algebra 2? How is an unschooler going to learn that stuff? That was the part that I had a hard time wrapping my brain around because I taught algebra 2 somehow by some crazy life circumstances. Someone thought it would be a good idea to put me in a algebra 2 classroom, even though I think I got a C in algebra 2 when I took algebra 2 20 years earlier. But there I was teaching algebra 2 20 years later. And and I was teaching algebra 2 and thinking, like, there's no way anyone is going to voluntarily choose to graph a quadratic function for fun. Like, nobody's doing this for fun. The only way that someone would do this is if they were forced to do it. That was my mentality. But what I learned is that when children have a purpose for learning that higher level math, they really do. They really do.
Okay.
And so that's the difference. And just to give you an example with my daughter's 12, almost 12. She's going to turn 12 on Tuesday. But this year she came to me, and after not doing like formal math before, she came to me and said, "Hey, Mom, I'm a little bit curious about like what the math is like in school. Can we try it? Like, can we see what it's like?" And of course, I'm like, "Sure." Like this is my unschooled daughter is interested and curious about school math. She wants to see what are they doing in there. And so we did. We went on Khan Academy, which is a free online curriculum, which is great. And we started doing the lessons, and we started out in sixth grade because that's where she's supposed to be, right? So we started out in sixth grade, and the first lesson was about ratios, and they were having her compare apples to oranges and how many boys to how many girls and all these things. And she flew through the whole lesson. She was like, "This is what they're doing? Like, this is really easy. Like, what is so hard about this? And she was very surprised that she just jumped into sixth grade math and was fine. And so she finished the whole lesson, got 100% on the quiz. I didn't even have to help her. She just did the whole unit. But then she got to the next unit. And then in the next unit, they were talking about, it was like decimals or fractions or something like that, dividing fractions. And then it was hard, right? She was like, "Oh gosh, like I've never had to do this before. I don't know how to do this. Can you help me with this?" And so I was like, "Sure." So I was like, "Okay, before we dive into, dividing super complex fractions, like we'll just go back. We'll go back to we're going to go back to kind of find the best fit for you, right?" So we went back to third grade and we started with the third grade fractions section. And so she worked on that, and that felt comfortable for her, right? The third grade fractions, it was like, it wasn't,
Okay.
it wasn't too easy, but it wasn't too hard. It was like you're like, okay, this is the good fit. And that's what we want learning to be, right? Like we want learning
Okay.
to be like, we want it to be in that perfect fit for them of like, okay, this feels like a challenge for my brain, but it doesn't feel so challenging that I feel frustrated and defeated.
Yes. Okay.
You know what I mean?
I understand.
So we
Yes.
went back to third grade and she did third grade. And I'll tell you something really interesting. She did the whole lesson about fractions in third grade, finished the whole thing, did great. We went back and looked. I was like, well, let's take a look at fourth grade. So we looked at the fourth grade math. They had already said that she had done like 36% or something like that of the fourth grade math, even though she'd never even done it. But she
Mm,
did it because whatever they learn in third grade, they repeat those same skills again in fourth grade, and they repeat those same skills again in fifth grade, and they repeat it again in sixth grade. And it's like, so even though she had never done fourth grade, because she did the third grade one, she'd already done part of fourth grade because it's all the same thing. They literally just repeat it over and over. And so I say that to say, like, as she's getting older, we're having different conversations, right? Like, we're
yeah.
talking about, like, hey, if you want to go to college, math might be a good thing for you to practice. Do you want to practice it now? And I let
Mm.
her choose. Do you want to practice it? And if she says no, I'm like, okay, cool. Like,
Oh
and I'll
my God,
tell you,
that sounds so simple. That sounds so much less stressful, like the other mom was saying. It's just
it
a
is less
different
stressful.
way. Yeah.
It should be.
And it's
And
a
I think,
lot less, pressure on my son who has difficulty learning math, but is a
right,
great artist and an amazing writer and other
right.
other amazing things. So yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank
And we
you.
we want them to dive deep in the areas that are going to be their strength. You know what I mean? Like, if your child is miserable doing math, they're probably not going to pursue a career that's going to involve a lot of math, you know?
Yeah.
And so we want them to develop and really cultivate their areas where they're proud and they're like, I enjoy this and I'm good at this and I like doing this and I want to get better at this. Because that's where they're going to ultimately, hopefully, find their career. Their ikigai is, I don't know if you're
Yeah.
familiar with the term ikigai.
Mm-hmm.
It's a Japanese term that is like their reason for being, right? It's
Passion.
that
Yeah.
marriage of what do I love? What can I earn a living from? What is something that has value in the world for other people? And then kind of the marriage of all of that of like, I want to find a way that I can earn a living doing something that I love every day, right?
Yes.
And that's the goal. So I'm like, if that's the goal, that you can find a way to earn a living doing what you love, then why on earth would I waste your time making you miserable doing something that you're not great at?
Mm-hmm.
For what?
For the passing grade, for the not good reasons. All right. Well, thank you, Angela.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'll be in touch.
My pleasure. Thank you for asking that question. Rosa said, can you share the name of the podcast? Yes, it is called the Exploring Unschooling Podcast. And I'll tell you, Pam Lurke, she interviews all these grown unschoolers. And she actually was my inspiration to start my own podcast, the Peaceful Worldschoolers podcast, where I did something similar, interviewing grown unschoolers and other unschooling families. And so feel free to listen to her podcast, the Exploring Unschooling podcast, and also my podcast, the Peaceful Worldschoolers podcast. But one of the things that I learned from interviewing grown unschoolers and listening to grown unschoolers talk about their experiences, especially in the area of math. And if you've been watching me, you probably heard me talk about this before, but every grown unschooler that I have ever interviewed myself or heard interviewed has said that they were able to teach themselves 13 years of math, enough math to be able to get into college after only studying for 6 months or less. Every single one. So the more I hear that, the more I'm like, okay, I can relax a little bit. If my daughter doesn't want to divide a fraction right now that she's 11, she'll be okay. Because I know that when she's 15, 16, 17, and starting to really think about college and really think about next steps, then at that point she'll have a purpose to learn that math, and then she'll be able to do it in 6 months or less. Yeah. Nikki said, what grade is the latest that you accept transfer students for PAX? So at PAX Academy, we accept students as young as 3 years old up through adults, actually. So if there's an adult who's listening who has not gotten their high school diploma, they can also earn their high school diploma through us. I saw Aylin also asked a question in the chat. She said, I'm in Florida. Do we have the option B? The answer is yes. In Florida, you also do have the option B. And so in Florida, you can either choose to be under the state supervision and do the portfolios and the exams and all that other stuff, or you can enroll what they call an umbrella school. So it's an interesting difference. In Maryland, umbrellas are usually not schools. But in Florida, umbrellas have to be a school. So they're a private school that is registered there. And PAX Academy is registered in the state of Florida as a private umbrella school. So if you live in Florida and you do not want to deal with all the stress of the state and evaluations and testing and all that other stuff, you can enroll in PAX Academy in the state of Florida and avoid all of that stuff. All right, and I see Cheyenne also asked a question. My child is 4. We've been working through a kindergarten curriculum. She has a late birthday and doesn't turn 5 until October. Technically, I haven't had to fill out the notice of intent to homeschool yet, but does that matter when it comes to Peaceful Worldschoolers? Great question, Cheyenne. So technically speaking, homeschooling in the state of Maryland does not legally begin until after your child turns 5. So technically, you won't have to actually register with Peaceful Worldschoolers until next year. All right. So yeah, you won't have to worry about that until next year. And then, sorry. Yeah. So, yeah, but like I said, even though you're not officially registered in our umbrella, you can still participate in our field trips and our events and all of the other stuff that we do. What church are you under? Great question. So the church that supervises us is called PAX Ministries Free Church. And Valerie said, can you add my spouse to the WhatsApp group? Yes, if you send me a message, or you can like just text me his phone number, and then I'll add him to the WhatsApp group. Yeah. All right. Darian, thank you for waiting so patiently. What was your question?
Sorry, my computer's moving so slow. So I know that, okay, so I know that a lot of people are in Maryland. Do you know anything about DC? So I do know the steps of, the intent to homeschool notice and, a full withdrawal, or, the kids can't be considered fully withdrawn until I show them the homeschool, or the notice getting approved. But specifically, I know for a fact that I will register with PAX Academy, and they said that it is considered a private umbrella, but would I have to put that on my homeschool? Because with homeschools, you have to create your own name, but would I be able to just add you guys on there? Do you know anything about DC? I know Maryland's look a little different because DC is not a state. So
Yes.
I know that a lot of Peaceful World Schoolers, I noticed that you guys did create a group for Washington, D.C., so I was excited about that. But do you have any information on how that would look?
Yeah, so that's an interesting question. I have had families kind of get two different responses. It's interesting because every state, and of course the district isn't a state, but every area interacts with private schools in very different ways. So there are some states that when you enroll in a private school like PAX Academy, you're exempt from their homeschooling laws. So you're not considered a homeschooler because you're enrolled in a private school, even if it's an online school like PAX Academy. Whereas there are other states like New York, for example, you can enroll yourself in New York, but if you're not physically going to the school in person 5 days a week, they do not consider you to be enrolled in a private school. So it's very interesting. Every kind of area deals with it a little bit differently. I'm looking at the HSLDA website now for the District of Columbia. And basically what I'm seeing here, it says that you have to have a high school diploma or its equivalent in order to be able to homeschool. If you don't have a high school diploma, you can petition the Office of the State Superintendent of Education for a waiver by basically explain to them why you should be able to educate your own child. And then you have to submit a notice. It says that you have to send this in 15 days before you start homeschooling and every year after by August 15th. And you basically just fill out the form. They have certain required subjects for you. It does say that you're supposed to maintain a portfolio. Let me see if they have you.
Yeah, I know that you don't have to submit it
Yeah,
though.
so
I know
don't
that you
need to
don't.
submit anything.
Yeah, I think like I know for a fact they do want you to keep up attendance, but I know for like the portfolio is pretty flexible. Because I think my thing is we're in DC right now, and when I'm homeschooling them, I would still be in DC, but we are supposed to be relocating to Maryland.
Okay.
So I don't know for sure if I should just do DC and then once we move to Maryland, switch it to Maryland. Or how does that work with PAX? Like, do
Yeah.
we change the address with you guys? Or like, how does that work?
Yeah, you can reach out to the district there and ask them and just say, "Hey, I'm interested in enrolling my child in a church exempt private school in the state of Maryland," and say, "If
Okay.
my child is enrolled in a private school in Maryland, do I still have to notify as a homeschooler here, or is that enough?" And I would just reach out and ask them, what they say, and then that way you have whatever they say, whatever they tell you, you have that in writing.
Okay,
You know,
so and can you repeat that one more time? So once I call, I would say
yeah,
it's a
yeah.
private.
Yeah, say my child is enrolled in a church exempt private school in the state of Maryland. And I would just ask them if that is sufficient for their compulsory education laws, or if they still want you to register as a homeschooler.
Okay, perfect. So I will try to figure that out. I'm just trying to figure everything out before we get to June so
Yeah,
that I can just start that process and I can just register them and everything is like just set in stone so I don't have to keep trying to figure out what we're going to do.
yeah.
But that was my only question. Thank you.
Yep, my pleasure. All right, I see Cheyenne said, is it a difference between, is it a difference between an umbrella and a co-op? Yes, there is a difference between an umbrella and a co-op. So an umbrella is a legal entity that is registered with the Maryland State Department of Education to provide supervision for home instruction. So that is a specific legal entity that is registered and approved by the state of Maryland to supervise home instruction. A co-op is basically where there's a group of homeschooling moms that come together and they organize themselves as a group of homeschool, usually moms, sometimes there's some dads in there, but homeschooling parents that come together to teach formal classes to their children. So for example, we have a lot of friends who are in co-ops. They all come together and then one mom says, okay, I'm going to teach kindergarten reading and I'm going to teach sixth grade science and I'm going to teach Spanish or whatever. And so the parents are basically, it's like they're doing school, but it's led by the parents, if that makes sense. My children have actually never participated in a co-op because as unschoolers, we aren't doing school. And a lot of my friends that are in co-ops, that is something that they share is that it is like school. They have homework. They do like projects. They have to do lesson plans and it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work to be a part of a co-op. Another kind of homeschooling entity that is good to be aware of as well as a tutorial. So you might hear that term as well, a tutorial. A tutorial is when homeschooling parents, rather than the parents providing the instruction for the kids, they will usually hire a certified teacher that will offer specific classes. So the parents are kind of outsourcing that aspect of their education. So the kids are doing formal classes under the supervision of an actual teacher as opposed to like a homeschool mom that's, teaching a random class that they're offering. And so Peaceful Worldschoolers, we are technically not a co-op because we don't do that. We don't have, classes that we're offering. What we offer the community is we offer our umbrella services, so you won't have to deal with the county. And then we also host weekly field trips and events that are open to anyone. So like I said, you don't have to be enrolled with our umbrella to participate in field trips. You're more than welcome to come and join us for the fun if you like. But we do give priority to the people who are actually members of either Peaceful Worldschoolers or PAX Academy, because as our group is growing, of course, a lot of the field trips do fill up quickly. And so we want to give priority to our members first before we open it up to the rest of the public. Let me see. It says, does World Schools offer any kind of hybrid setup where there's a consistent meeting day where you can work with other parents for maybe a subject you aren't fluent enough to
You
teach?
answered that part. Thank
Okay.
you. The
Okay,
last
good.
part, though, what would be the difference between PAX Academy and Peaceful World Schoolers?
Yeah. So Peaceful Worldschoolers is registered in the state of Maryland as an approved umbrella. So we're registered as an umbrella, whereas PAX Academy is registered in the state of Maryland as a church-exempt private school. So what that means is that when you enroll in Peaceful Worldschoolers, you pay $100 per family per year. Everybody leaves you alone, including me. You do your thing, and then once a year we meet for our annual review, and that's basically it. Pay the $100 fee. We take care of the annual review for you. We report to the county on your behalf, and then that's it. Whereas PAX Academy, because it is a private school, we are the ones that are actually like we function like an actual private school. So we issue transcripts, we issue diplomas, we issue like their academic record for them. We function like any other private school. It's just that you are free to educate your child in whatever way that you believe is best. So within PAX Academy, we also offer additional resources. There's a whole course that I designed where I teach you how to unschool from kindergarten through 12th grade. We offer guidance counseling, college and career counseling. We handle all of the, transcript services for you guys. You also get access to exclusive discounts that are not available to people that are just in the umbrella. I'm trying to think what else. Oh, and then another big difference too is the price, right? So if you were to look online and have your child be in or like look for an accredited private school, minimum that you're going to pay for an accredited private school is $1,500 a year, minimum. Okay. A lot of them cost a lot more than that, but $1,500 is like the bare minimum to be enrolled in an accredited private school. I am a single mom. I have had my own financial hardships in life. I have always wanted to be able to make sure that whatever I build and create is something that's going to be accessible to anyone who wants to have access to it. And so PAX Academy does cost more than the umbrella, but it is only $400 per year, as opposed to thousands of dollars for an accredited private school. So it's $400 a year, and then each additional sibling is $150 extra. If you were to enroll right now in PAX Academy to finish out this school year, we actually have a discount going on now. So it's $350 to finish out this school year. And then there's a one-time registration fee of $50. But going forward next year, it'll go back to like the regular rate. So it'll be $400 for one student, plus $150 for each additional one. All right. Nikki said, does my student need to start PAX in the 9th grade, or is it possible to transfer at a later high school grade? So you could transfer at a later high school grade. The only thing is that in order for us, so we're in our so we have an international accreditation right now, and we are working on, we're in the final stage of our national and regional accreditation. And so because of that, it's really, how do I explain this? In the state of Maryland, not just in the state of Maryland, but in most states, if your child were to transfer to another school, and they only have homeschool credits on their transcript, homeschool credits are not accredited. And so I have seen in the past that there have been several people who have tried to transfer schools and show like a homeschool transcript or a homeschool record, and the schools just don't accept their credits. And it's really frustrating because you're like, even for families that did use like a full curriculum and did do like the whole shebang of all of the classes and online stuff, it didn't matter, because they earned those credits as a homeschooler. Those credits were not accepted in the public school system. And so the accreditation piece becomes really, really, really important once they get to high school. And so that is why we recommend that they transfer to PAX Academy once they get to 9th grade, because then all of the credits that they're earning through high school will be accredited. If your child has already been in like, let's say they've done 2 years already as a homeschooler, and now they're in 11th grade wanting to transfer into PAX Academy as a previous homeschooler, you can actually like pay for the previous school years, and then we'll be able to conduct a review of those previous years, and then we can report those on our transcript, as though those were credits that were issued from us, so they would also be considered accredited. So that is another service that we offer as well, to be able to help families, because it's really unfortunate, when when you have a teenager who's, been homeschooling and they've been doing a great job, and then they try to get back into school for whatever reason in 11th or 12th grade, and then the school's like, oh no, we're not going to accept your credits, which, I don't agree with. I think that's kind of silly, but it's just kind of the way that it is. And yeah, so that is why we do recommend switching over to PAX Academy for sure by 9th grade. Any other questions?
Angela, those credits that you're saying for the 9th grade and up, are those credits like art history? Are they specific to subjects, or are they overall that you've completed the school year? How does that work from that PAX Academy to?
Yeah. So in PAX Academy, we give you 3 different ways that you can earn credits. They're actually the same 3 ways that you can earn credits at the college level. It's just most people don't know that they can earn credits in these 3 ways. The first way that you can earn credits at PAX Academy is by taking a class. This is kind of the way that most people are most familiar with. This is what most people know. This is what most people are used to. There are some unschoolers that do choose to take a class. Again, the reason for that is, people have different reasons why they would choose to take a class. If your child is planning to go to college in the future, I will 1000% recommend that your child take a college class through one of our dual enrollment partnerships. We have partnerships in PAX Academy with 6 different universities. So that way your child can actually begin earning college credit and high school credit beginning in 6th grade. So it's a great opportunity for your students to not only earn high school credit, but they can earn college credit at the same time, which will save them a ton of time and a ton of money. So taking a class is one option. At PAX Academy, we do not directly provide the classes. And the reason for that is that I am not interested in wasting your time or mine. And there are so many free resources that are already out there and available that rather than, I'll give you an example, could I create an algebra class? Sure, right? I taught algebra now. Could I design an algebra class? I could, but why would I design an algebra class when there's Khan Academy that has a free online algebra class that's already created with videos and all this other stuff that I actually used when I was the teacher. So, we've got these amazing, great free resources that are already out there. Same thing. The other day I was looking into like coding classes and I saw Harvard offers free coding classes. So I'm like, oh my gosh, if your kid is interested in coding, why would I take my time to design a coding class when I could just point you to like, hey, here's this free coding class from Harvard. Like, do it, like I'm not going to do better than Harvard. Like, use the resources that are already out there. I want to connect you to what's already there, right?
Okay, and
So
then you would give the credits for that class that the student has taken, like
you would report
verified.
that to us.
We would
Yeah.
report. Okay.
Yep. So
And
you
that's
would
how
say
they would
like,
get the
okay,
credit.
right. You would report that credit. So at the end of the year, the parents fill out a form and you'll say, okay, for English language arts, my daughter did a dual enrollment class with Arizona State University, and this is the grade that she got for her dual enrollment class. And then that will be her grade. The second way that they can earn credits is through testing. So there's 2 main types of testing that most of our students do, and that's either CLEP testing or AP testing. My personal favorite
Okay.
is the CLEP exam.
I took that. Yeah. I remember
Yeah,
in Spanish. Yep.
yep, I
And
took
you
I
get
took
a
it for
bunch,
Spanish as
12
well.
credits, I think I got. Yeah.
I know, me too. And I'm like, this is great. I got 12 credits in 90 minutes, all because I could speak Spanish. I'm like,
Yeah.
fantastic. And so we actually will teach you, like, okay, if you want to earn college and high school credits for free, we'll teach you how to do that through the CLEP exams. And
So that's all the high school, right? That's on all high
yep,
school
all of
level.
that is high school. They can also do it in, I think they have to be 13 to do it. So in middle school, I think they can do the CLEP exams. But yeah, so that
But
would be
mostly the partnerships with the universities are in high school level. That is.
we have some that will accept our students beginning in 6th grade. There are
Wow.
some
Okay.
college partnerships that we have that won't accept students until their junior year of high school. So it just depends on the college that we're partnering with and then what they offer. So everyone is different, and we have a college and career counselor that can meet with your teen and kind of talk through like the different partnerships that we have and which one would be the best fit for them. But yeah, so taking a class is one option, taking a test is another option. And then the third option, which is kind of like the most unschooly way, I guess you could say. And that is rather they could take their time. And colleges refer to this as portfolio credit, but basically it's credit that they've learned from anything that they've done in their entire life. Literally anything, any book that they've read, any documentary that they've watched, any field trip that they've attended, any travel experience that they have, any work experience that they have, anything that they've done in their actual life can be converted into academic credit. Literally anything. And so you would report that as well. So in the case of, my daughter, we're not using a curriculum for English language arts. My daughter's read over 30 books this year. And she's actually working on writing her 5th book now. We've been working on that for a while. And so, English and reading and writing is a passion of my daughter. So I would give her an A for that subject area. It's something she invests a lot of time and effort and energy into. It's something that she really enjoys. It's a passion for her. And so I would give her an A for that. Then we'll look at something like math, right? And I'll say, okay, she's starting to show an interest in math, but it's definitely not a passion of hers. And we worked on certain skills. There are other skills that she's weaker in. So I would probably give her like a B or a C in that, And so, yeah, so you just kind of look at, who they are and what they've done. And then you assign a grade and then report that on the form. Does that make sense?
Yes, yes. I thought it was only in high school, but I would say, but from your explanation, if you go through PAX Academy, and I guess that's a big difference, you're obtaining those grades per se,
Right.
in a different way. Okay,
Yeah.
thank
And we
you.
do that beginning in kindergartens, or well, in beginning in preschool. So like our preschool report card is actually, let me see if I can pull it up. I can show you. Hold on.
So ultimately, like for my kid who loves art and writing, like in those, and then if they took like a specific science class or something that would fulfill some of the requirement or all of the requirement, and we went to a museum to go hand in hand with that, that would already
Right.
put like the science A, art A, and
Yeah.
kind of
So
just
you
guide it.
look at the whole picture, right? Like you could
Yeah,
say, okay, you know what? He did this online class and maybe he got a C in the online class. But then you're like, okay, well, outside of this class, he also
yeah,
did all these experiments. We watched all these documentaries. We went on all these field trips. He was talking to me about all the stuff that he learned while we were at the aquarium. Like he's got these other scientific interests outside of this class, you know?
got it.
So you look
Okay,
at the whole picture of who your child is and you say, okay, I'm gonna look at the whole picture of my child and then
sure,
say, how would I assess his progress, his effort, his growth in this particular
sure.
subject area.
Okay.
And so just to give you an example, let me show you hold on, I'm going to share my screen real quick. So this is the form that our families fill out whenever they go to report the grades. So for like a kindergartner, you'll see,
Bless you.
sorry.
Bless you, bless you.
So you'll see it starts out just like with a regular kindergarten. They've got the social emotional skills here, demonstrates deep curiosity. And then you'll decide, does my child do that always, often, sometimes, rarely, or never? Do they express themselves creatively? Do they concentrate on the task at hand? Do they think critically? Do they communicate their feelings and emotions? These social emotional skills are really important. They're like a key part of education, especially at the early elementary level. So usually in like kindergarten through 2nd grade, this is like a big part of what they're doing at that age. And so yes, we've got all these different parts here. And then here at the bottom, you write a brief summary. So you'll talk about the things that your child explored in these different subject areas. English, math, science, social studies, art, music, health, physical education. If you want to, you can also address technology, world language. Some of our families want to include like a Bible, and then also life skills. If you got life skills, this is also more for like children with severe special needs. But it really could apply to anyone because all of us could use some life skills. And so, yeah, and then here you just choose whatever you would like to assign for the grade for that particular subject area. And then that's it.
Thank you for going over that. Thank you.
And then with the middle school, it becomes a little bit more complicated. Once they get to middle school, then they're starting to choose their courses, right? So in middle school, they're going to choose if they're going to do, English 6. We also have some students that are learning English as a second language, so they've got ESOL. And then we have functional English for our students that have special needs. So they would pick a functional English. And then we also have students who are in Spanish speaking countries. And so their primary language arts class is going to be Spanish. So they're going to choose that for their primary language arts class. And then same thing with math. They've got the regular like math 6, 7, and 8. They could also do pre-algebra. We have some students who choose to do algebra 1 while they're in middle school. If they choose to do that, it will actually also count for one of their high school credits. So they could report that they did algebra 1, and then they would get that both on their middle school transcript as well as on their high school transcript. And then the applied mathematics classes, those are the ones with an asterisk, again, for our students that have special needs. And you just kind of do that with all the other subject areas.
So
And
the applied math, that would be for if they're working on like a lower grade, but based on their needs, that
yeah,
would be where it would fall.
applied math is typically for like students that have, really significant special needs like autism, where they're not doing like middle school math. Do you know what I mean? Like they're using math that would be more like appropriate for
For their
children
needs,
that
yes.
yeah that have disabilities or things like that, where they're working on math that they're specifically applying to their daily life based on their individual abilities.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. Yep. And so it's, kind of like that. And then, so in middle school, they do English, math, science, social studies, so the core 4, and then they get to pick any 3 electives that they would like to do. And then same thing, they choose a grade, they write a brief summary, and that is it. And then for high school, that's where it gets to be even more fun. And this is why we typically recommend once they get to high school that you book a consultation with one of our guidance counselors, because now you're picking the category first, right? So let's say we'll do English, but now they've got all these different options for a potential English credit, right? Lots of different things that they could do for English. And then these English down here, you can see we've got the AP exam here. So if they want to test out of English, they could do that. If the ASU, that is our ASU partner. So the Arizona State University, BU, this is our Bottega University partner. And we've got the CLEP exams in here as well. So they've got a bunch of different options once they get to high school. And so this is why once your student gets to the high school level, it's really, really helpful to work with a college and career counselor that can help kind of guide you and talk through like, okay, what exactly do we want to do? What's going to be like a good order or a good flow for your child? What do they want to focus on? How do they want to earn these credits? And then kind of like going from there. Right? Any other questions? I see Haiti has a question. She said, how much is PAX Academy to start on June 1st? So PAX Academy, beginning on June 1st, we're going to open up the enrollment for the 2026-2027 school year. And so it'll be $400 for the entire school year. Plus there's a one-time registration fee of $150 if you're enrolling for next school year. And that $150 registration fee includes an hour-long consultation with our guidance counselor. So you will get one-on-one support with someone from our team that will meet with you, that will help you come up with like, what exactly do you want to do for this year? How can we support you? Make sure you've got all the tips and tricks and resources, and that you can start your year feeling really confident about what you want to do in the areas that you guys want to focus on for the year coming ahead. All right. Any other questions? No? All right. Well, if there are no more questions, thank you guys so much for being on the call today. This is how much longer do I have to enroll my girls? So we have year-round open enrollment. You can enroll with us at any point in time. You can enroll in either Peaceful Worldschoolers or PAX Academy at any time. Like I said, we'll open up for next school year after June 1st, but if you would like to register for this current school year, you still can. We have people that are switching to us even now that it's March, that sorry. They want their children to be able to have that accredited transcript at the end of the year. And so, yeah, so you're, like I said, you're more than welcome to switch at any point in time. If you're wanting to enroll for next school year, though, you'll have to wait until June 1st. All right. Any other questions? Oh, thank you, Darian, for being here. It was a pleasure to have you on the call. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.